There's no need to sprint off.
Wow, I think maybe we should have splurged and bought her a melon.
I think we'll be okay keeping it simple.
Hey everyone, today we're building Chiyo-mihama's house from the series Azumanga Daioh. I'm looking forward to this build as I really enjoy both the manga and anime, and I thought it'd be fun to bring it into Minecraft. I'm gonna get started building the front of the house, and we'll be using smooth quartz, as I found it to be a suitable block with a nice subtle texture. So with these windows, I've layered pale oak fences in between the glass to give them some framing like the ones on Chiyo's house. I believe they're called sash windows, and from what I've read, they're pretty common in Georgian architecture, which the Mihama residence seems to share some similarities with. You can see the windows here in an image of the Georgian manor house Thrakli Hall, as well as Chiyo's house. I finished doing the front of the building, and I'm happy with the way this turned out. Nothing back here at the moment, but I'll work on that later. I did this little overhang here on the entrance, and I did it out of pale oak because I felt like that variation in color kind of helps it pop a little more, because I feel if I use too much of the same block, everything just kind of blends together and you lose a lot of depth that way. I also have it laid atop this little layer of endstone bricks, and I really like the color of these. They look almost exactly like the ones in the show, which I'm very happy with. So I'm gonna work on building a path out of these bricks, and then I will do the lawn, trees, bushes, and then after all that is done, I'm gonna work on finishing the house and starting the interior. Now, before I get too far ahead with my building, I wanted to stop and take a second to kind of go over what I've done so far. I have built all these little fluffy trees around the yard, a lot like the ones in Chiyo's. At first, I wasn't really sure how I wanted to build these trees, but I saw that moss was a very good block, as well as these azalea leaves, and I pasted glass panes over some of the blocks to give it a bit of variation in color, and I'm very happy with the way these look. I also did these bushes all around, and I added candles to kind of take the role of flowers because Chiyo has a lot of bushes in her yard that are flowering with white flowers, and I thought that would be a good way to add some more color as well. And I was kind of having a bit of trouble over here because I wasn't sure how to end the yard. I don't think there's any point in the show or books that it's shown how the yard ends. So I just kind of took my own creative liberty and just built this kind of moss wall to make it appear that the trees keep going that way. Because you're mostly going to be viewing it from over here. The house is the main focal point of this whole build, so I'm not really too worried about this area over here, but I did try to make it look nice. And I think that's about all I've done. Oh, I did also do the gate, and I really like the way this one looks. I wouldn't have ever thought to use bamboo for a gate like this, but seeing Chiyo's house and how she has this green gate out front, this block was perfect. So I'm really happy with this, and I think I'm going to start working on extending this wall out and building the side of the house now. I went and extended the tree line on both sides of the house, as well as extending this brick platform out this way a bit. I started doing the side of the house, but I think I'm going to put that on hold and start working on the interior. And the reason I'm doing that is because I find it a little difficult for me to scale the outside of the house properly when I don't have the interior built, because I don't want to end up building the whole exterior and then finding out I built it too big or too small to house the rooms inside of the house. So I'm going to start working on the main room and stairs, and I'll go from there. I've gotten quite a lot of building done and compressed it into that time lapse, and right now I just want to do a quick overview of all the work I've gotten done so far. Over on this side is Chiyo's room, and then if we come over this way, we have a living room, which this side of the house isn't really shown in the show that I know of, but I just kind of use my imagination here. And if we head up these stairs, I don't have too much done up here, but I do have a wet room, which Sakaki is shown washing Maya in one of the episodes. And I chose this location because the establishing shot in that scene is outside this window. So I imagine the wet room is somewhere in this area. And I really like this room and the color scheme. And then I believe if we come over to this side of the house, we don't have anything in this room yet, but this is going to be the kitchen. And then I have to build Chiyo's study room, the parents' master bedroom, and I'd like to build another bathroom down here. Okay, so I wanted to do a quick overview of the building I've gotten done. This way I've made a kitchen and I've done a couple changes to it over the time lapse, but this is what it looks like now. And then if we come this way, I've built a bathroom. And then if we come this way, I've built the parents' master bedroom and a little closet over there. And then if we come up the stairs, we have Chiyo's study room. and then I have a theater room on this side of the house. And now that that's all done, I'd like to make an attic up there. I'd like to do something with this room. I think I'm going to make a guest room. And then back on this side of the house, I would like to make a garage. And after that's all done, I plan to add a city backdrop behind the house. So I'm going to get started working on that, and at the end of the video, I'll kind of do a walkthrough and go over everything I've built. So I did just want to know, I did find an episode where it shows how the yard ends. I know I had said earlier that I hadn't found any reference images for that. And it's just a gate extending out on the side of the yard, which does make sense. But I think I'm going to keep the trees because that shot is taken during the fall-winter time when all the leaves have fallen off the trees. And I think this helps it look a lot more luscious. And you're not really over in that area too much anyways, so I think it helps fill out a little more than a gate would. So I'm happy keeping it that way. And over here in the study room, I just had to add another bookshelf over here and move this shelf over a bit because I found some better angles. But I'm going to get started doing that now. Alright, so I finished the interior work on the house and can finally call it finished. I also added some chimneys to the outside of the house. And for the background, I've done houses, power lines, and city buildings. I also did city buildings over here. I didn't do them on these sides of the house because I felt like it made it a bit too busy and I wanted to keep this skyline open. And the only thing left to do now is lighting up the city because everything else is lit up pretty nicely, but I feel like the city is awfully dark for being a city. So I'm going to work on lighting up all these buildings and then I'm going to do a full tour of the house. Okay, so with the house finished, I'm ready to do a walkthrough, and I feel like this segment's going to be quite long. I'm going to talk quite a lot about why I designed things the way I did. Starting with the exterior of the house, I wasn't sure how large I wanted to make it in the beginning. I'm happy with the scale I chose. I felt like if I were to make it any bigger, it would have just been too large, and it would have looked way too large from the outside compared to the source material. And I'm deviating quite a bit from the source material in some areas. I still try to stay true to it, like in Chiyo's room, but I will kind of talk about some areas where I had to deviate a bit. But we come in here, and this area is from one of the episodes. It's a little segment in one of them. I just made this little area a closet with a painting and a plant. And then I used turtle eggs quite a bit. I made them to look like bulbs on little rods. And I felt like they had a nice round shape, so they kind of looked like lights on the walls. I put a bit more in than lights shown in the show just because lighting in Minecraft is a bit tricky, so I needed extra lights down here. Otherwise, it would have been way too dim. And then you will also notice I've used shelves quite a lot in this build. I use them for the banister here. I use them for the railing on the stairs, and they are all over the place. They're doors, open doors, but they do look very nice, and I really do like this newer block and implementing it into this build. Over here is the kitchen, and the kitchen isn't really shown in the show, but I did find an animation art book that showed some of the sketches for the kitchen and the floor plan. I guess you could call it a floor plan, maybe not, but it showed some of these sketches and gave me a good idea of what the kitchen looked like. And this area is shown in the show. It's where Chiyo cooks, but I don't have too much more to say about this area. But it was pretty neat to have to go through the art book and kind of see some of the original sketches that they made for the show. So that's how I made this room. And then we can come over here, and down this hall we have a small bathroom. And I wanted this mirror to look like the one Chiyo gets ready in front of in one of the episodes. I believe this bathroom's a bit smaller than that one shown in the show, but like I had said, I had to deviate a bit from some of the shots in the show because of the sizing of the house. But I still think this room looks quite nice. And then if we come over to this side of the house, we have the parents' master bedroom. It's a pretty simple little bedroom, nothing too special about it. I did do a little walk-in closet over here, and I used buttons as shoes, and then I used banners to kind of look like clothes. I wasn't really sure how else I would go about that, so I think banners make a really good, colorful kind of mashup, if that makes sense. But this is a nice little simple room. I didn't go too crazy with it or anything. It just kind of was here to fill the extra area we have and kind of what I would imagine the parents' bedroom to look like. And then if we come over here, we have the living room, which isn't shown in the show, but I also wanted to fill this space out over here because not every room in Chiyo's house is shown in the show. So I just made this an open living room that's supposed to be a wine shelf. I don't know if it looks like a wine shelf, but that was my intention. We have a little picture of a doggy on the wall, and that's about it with this room. I guess we could come back in here and head up the stairs so I can show off Chiyo's study room. This is a room shown in the show. I think I may have made it a bit bigger than the room shown in the show, but in the establishing shot when it's first shown, it looks very grand. So I wanted to kind of capture that feeling of when the room is first shown, and I kind of sacrificed realism a bit for that, but I think it's okay. I have the kotatsu over here, even though this takes place during the summer, and the kotatsu would be used more in the fall, winter time. I really wanted to try my best to make one in Minecraft, and I do quite like this design, the sakura stairs, or cherry wood stairs, and the frog lights under trapdoors. And then I just have some bookshelves over here with some wool on them to look like books. I guess, so a kotatsu is essentially a little warm table that you can sit around, I guess, is how I would describe it. I don't have one personally. I don't think I've actually ever seen one in person, but I see them quite often in media. So I kind of just tried to do my best to make it appear as one would in this room. And I'm pretty happy with the way it looks. And then we just have another shelf over here as well with some little, I wanted these to kind of look like figurines. You'll see candles pasted all around the house, and they're kind of meant to represent different things. Essentially, I just use them to kind of look like objects, because you're not really supposed to zone in on these because they are candles, but when they're all kind of together, it just kind of looks full. Same with me using wool for books. You're not meant to look that closely. So if we come over here, we are going to have Chiyo's bedroom. And in the show, her door for the entrance to her room is shown on this side. But to make it match up with this window and the scale of the house, I had to make the door here. So I just turned this side into a closet. So it deviates a bit from her room in that way. But I still think it's pretty close to what her room looks like. I used panes to look like pink curtains, and then I did a little desk over here and a table over here, and then I did slime for the wallpaper because it's the closest green I could get to the wallpaper Chiyo has in her room, and I did a little buttons to look like the little dots she has on her wallpaper. But that's about it for her room. And then if we come over here, we have, I said I was going to make this a guest room, but I actually decided to make it a little study for her parents. I have a little computer over here, some books, some decorations, and a bed for their dog, Mr. Tadakichi. And then if we come up the stairs, I just did a little attic design. I didn't really do anything too much up here. I just wanted to do something to kind of fill out this area because I don't think there's an attic ever shown in the show, but I just kind of imagined that's what's up here on the third story. So I just did some boxes, a couch, some tables, a rug, things like that. But that's about it for up here. I do want to mention, like, this table was because they cycle tables in the show throughout the episodes. So the tables in Chiyo's study room kind of vary. Like, this isn't always a kotatsu. Sometimes it's a white table, sometimes it's a brown table. So I put a white and brown table up in that attic to kind of give that continuity, I guess I should say, if that makes sense, of cycling those tables, and they're currently stored in the attic. So if we come upstairs on this side, I just have a little landing with a little rug there, and then we have a wet room that I had mentioned earlier. Sakaki was shown washing Maya the cat in.
Here comes the rinse.
And the wet room is essentially, I guess I could say, a large shower. It's just a very open bathroom. It doesn't have like a dedicated shower area. Sometimes they may have a sink or a toilet, and that toilet may be blocked off by a little screen to kind of protect it from getting too wet. But for the most part, it's just a very open shower area. Sometimes they can have plants in there. And I did a little area with a soap bar and some shampoo conditioner bottles here. And I use candles. I use candles for a lot of things in this build. And then I just did a little white curtain and a blue strip of ice for some color on the wall. And then over on this side of the hallway, we have a theater room, which is shown in the bonus manga. It came out a couple years after the original manga had released, I believe. And they're shown watching or trying to watch a movie in this room. It has a little projector, a little screen, and then just a little couch, table, and stuff like that. So I thought I would include this in the build because I really liked that room and wanted to incorporate it here. But that's about it for the house. I can come outside and kind of show, now that it's nighttime, how I lit up everything out here. We've just got some houses out on the street, and then we've got city buildings out in the distance. I did some power lines as well. And then we come over here, we have some more city buildings. And I actually think it looks quite nice from the study room. If we flip into here, I think it looks really full looking out this window, and I really like the way it looks. But that's really it for this build. I don't really have anything else to say. It took me quite a long time, and I'm very happy I was able to share it with everyone. I hope that I haven't been talking too long, but I just really wanted to go over everything I did because it was a lot, and I really wanted to be able to share everything. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to do more builds for everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye. It's not actually bye-bye. I forgot to show off the garage back here. It's just a quick little garage design I did that comes down into this hallway. You just head down here, and I just did some framing on the sides, and then a vertical lift garage door, and then some workbenches. Now I can say bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.